So, welcome everyone after a short break. My name is Jozef Baranec, and I'm working with the PDF file for almost 20 years. And the main focus of our company is logical content extraction. I'm going to talk about some of our some of our experiences from what we have done, how many different files we have processed, and the focus of the presentation will be the web browser. Uh, you heard a lot about the next generation PDF, and everything was aiming to the HTML and conversion or viewing the PDF as HTML, because it leads to the fact that it will be a browser or some kind of browser that will be displaying the PDF content. It can be either standard browser, as you can imagine, Chrome or Firefox or whatever your browser is using, but also it can be embedded browser, which is a very common practice to embed the browser into the application, whether you're desktop or mobile. So it's very simple to input or embed the browser element or some UI element into the application, and you just provide the content. And the content can be arbitrary. You never know what kind of content you are dealing with. If you click on the link, you don't know whether there is some database in behind or there is a file behind. It can be even text file, but also it can be PDF. And you don't know what kind of data is behind the link until you won't click it. In case of kind of corporate solutions, there is a need to provide the PDF content through the web browsers. It saves a lot of money on the desktops when you don't have to install additional software. You can provide all the functionality that is required to work with the PDF files directly in the browsers, which is a big advantage for large distributions all the way around the company. I can imagine that all of you have some experience with PDF in the browser, and I believe that you have tried many different ways how to view the content. Sometimes it's possible to read that because many browsers have built-in capability to display the PDF. The fact that you cannot work with a PDF, like for example in a desktop software or desktop reader, you can't use, for example, layers. You cannot fill forms many times. This is actually how it works, but sometimes it's okay just to see the PDF and you throw it away, you click somewhere else, and the PDF disappears. But whenever you will need to do something more with the PDF, the usual or many times you need to download the PDF because it simply doesn't work in the in the browser. So if you look at the browser itself, we can split that to two worlds. One is mobile and one is desktop. Most of the market is covered by just a couple of different viewers, but even with those fewer viewers on each platform, you will get completely different experience. I'm not counting those embedded here, but not just the different vendors of these viewers, of these browsers, are providing different experience with the PDF. There is also a difference between the versions of the browsers. So in that case, as an author, you have no idea who and how will see the PDF and what functionality will be there, if the links will be working, if the video that you will embed into the PDF will be possible to play, or the 3D graphics, which could be kind of an extreme situation, will work. But very simple use case is a PDF form which you simply will not fill in the browser. It's almost impossible right now. If we look at closer at the desktop environments, there was several different solutions how to display the PDF, or different technologies was used how to display the PDF previously, and even now it's possible in some of them. Some of technologies was deprecated, but it's common to see even now SVG, which is a part of HTML file, and it's perfectly valid and perfectly working on some PDF files. If you take I don't know, vector graphics like engineering drawings or some technical drawings, which needs to be zoomed in, but needs to stay as they are. There is no, 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 not no need, but it must not be reflowed anyhow. It must stay as an image. In that case, SVG graphic is perfectly valid, but it's just a specific type of document. It's different with many other documents like legal agreement, like invoices. These kind of documents contains information which is not needed to be retained as the layout of the document doesn't have to be retained on all devices, and the content is much more important. And of course, you still have a chance to download the PDF and work with it outside the browser. But in that case, you're losing some capabilities that browser allows. For example, tracking of the PDF. If you download the PDF as a distributor, as a publisher, you don't know where the PDF goes unless you have some special or custom security applied, which reports, I don't know, opening the document somewhere in other viewer. Looking at the mobile viewers, it's even worse at the moment. And zoom and pinch was already mentioned today, and it's really pain. Many applications, as I mentioned, uses built-in viewer, and that the whole application just runs in the embedded viewer, which means all the content is provided through one window, very small window, and there is actually no chance to work with the file like the author would like to because of the small display. And download the file, of course, doesn't help because you still have very small screen, and it will be the same even in separate application. So that's why even worse. If I summarize all the issues that I mentioned, the author loses control over what will be provided, what kind of content, and how the content will be provided to the user. There is no exact specification, or there is the declaration of the support in the browsers is nowhere written, so you have no idea what's going to be supported in the next viewer, next Chrome, for example, next Firefox, and what functionality is really, what version is really needed, because no one knows what will be provided, which content of the PDF will be provided, whether annotations will be there or so. And I already mentioned that downloading loses tracking capabilities. It means, very simple example, you imagine a company which sells cars. They are usually providing a price list in the PDF because it's nice layout, it's well designed, and all the information is nicely structured for viewing. But if you download this PDF as a PDF, you don't know how many people is looking at it, at this price list. And the fact that I can send this PDF to my friend, they have no idea. So who is looking at the PDF? But making the PDF displaying in the browser as HTML, for example, enables them to keep tracking of this PDF. And what's more, they can provide some additional content in the PDF by some dynamic elements like showing ads or showing some season, I don't know, discounts or whatever is needed, and the content, the document can be still the same. Until now, there was a solutions how to make the PDF appear better in the PDF. Linearization was one of the options, but actually it doesn't help in reading. It helps just with loading the file. Tagged PDF, we heard last two presentations was about good tagging of the PDF files, and it has a big impact on the experience. And once you have tagged PDF and properly tagged PDF, you have many abilities to provide content in a different way. For documents with a very simple layout, like a very easy to read text, even now there are solutions which allows you to see the PDF as a reflow. You just take the text out of the PDF, show image if it's needed, and that's it. Which is very basic and will not work on any more complicated document or any document that contains some specific kind of data, like for example table. this is, of course, not enough. We heard a lot about it today. The future, we heard today, most of that we heard already, but the expectation from the PDF as a format, as document, as a data container are much, much higher. So everything that is listed here, we already heard from the previous speakers, and the business simply and the world expects to much better working, much better experience with working with the data. I will jump a bit and speak a little bit how we get to the fact that HTML is good solution, because it was not just Adobe who brought up the HTML stuff. There was a method how to display different content already. OCG was a solution, but unfortunately, the PDF viewers on mobile devices simply ignored this fact, this technology, which could be very valuable for this purpose. And we have tried several examples how it could work, but unfortunately, it didn't work on mobile phones. So the important two most important things are relevant for making the PDF reflowable. Is PDF must be either properly tagged to get specific elements, to get the correct reading order, or there must be very good content extraction done. In case of content extraction, I'm gonna deal with this a bit later. At the end, after all the experiences that we have with different methods how to provide content in different way, we realized that HTML is standard, which is widely used, which everyone knows, easy to adjust, easy to reflow, easy to display on any device, because web browser, as far as I know, is on the mobile phones since they had more than 2 lines or something like that. And of course, it has JavaScript, and the JavaScript capabilities of the web browsers is very, I would say, is at very high performance. So any application can run in the directly in web browser, for example, including Acroform environment, which we use for making the Acroform work in the PDF. So if you look at the PDF to HTML conversion, there are mainly 2 ways how to provide the content. Either as is, as it was designed, so you see exactly what the author wanted to present. Of course, there are many ways how to present and how to build an HTML page. One of the solutions is to render the page, which by rendering the page to an image, you will get exactly the correct representation. Of course, you can use rendering, for example, of the text by putting directly normal text on the HTML. But in that cases, you can hit some licensing issues with the fonts, or you can get some differences in rendering the font elements. So rendering of the page into an image will be the only one true representation of the content. And then you can put any different elements as HTML objects onto that, annotations, widgets, or whatever is needed. The responsive layout, as I will call it, is something that will reflow the content. And as I said, the object structure is required to understand, so the browsers will display the content properly and not in logical order. It means elements or objects which should stay together even when they are provided as in responsive version. So if you have text over image, for example, you need to understand whether the image belongs to the text. So if the text belongs to the image, or it's a part of the graphic that is applied on the image, or the path is actually those 1,000 paths are together making a logo or something like that. It must stay together, otherwise it doesn't make sense if we break them and show them as a separate pieces. Let's look at the PDF files. that we are dealing with. As it was said several times, there are a huge number of PDF files, and many of them are being created daily. What's good and what's also bad that there is a huge number of creators, but not all of them are producing good quality PDF files. I would not deal with the linears. It it's not that interesting. But tag PDF files, even though the number of created tag PDF files is significantly higher than it was before, the number of the tag PDF files will probably never get to, or it will be very hard to think about it. It will get to, let's say, 50% because of the huge number of files that are already existing, and someone has to do something with those existing files. There is a huge number of scanned files, which is just an image. So again, some processing must be done on these kind of images. There are tools which can do a great job with optimizing, with conversion to PDFA, for example. But in terms of processing these files, the structure needs to be identified correctly. The logical elements should be identified as well. Words, paragraphs, images, and this kind of stuff must be done. And without kind of a human input, it would be impossible to create valid PDF UA file. But with correct tools, it's possible to do maybe 90% of the work, and the rest can be adjusted by manual work, which is also good. Forms also, acroforms, or in general forms, also cover a significant part of the segment, which needs to be done and needs to be also provided as a PDF, as a valid form in the browser, which means it doesn't matter to the user whether he's looking at the web form, HTML form, or the origin of the file is a PDF form. It has to work. No one cares. If the field is a number field, it must be a number field also in HTML, the same way like when you open it on a desktop viewer and you will see that the field is number field. So regarding the logical content extraction, we can separate the files to tagged and non-tagged. We heard a lot about non-tagged PDF and about tagged PDF, and there is a really need to either push on creators to create perfectly valid PDF files and ideally PDF UA files to get exactly the structure that we need or that is needed to proper conversion to HTML, and also to provide sufficient data which are required to present, for example, tables in a different ways like Adam mentioned in the previous presentation. Accessibility is one of the reasons, or many governments are pushing on accessibility to publish documents which are accessible. Now, what to do with those files that are all been created, and in many cases the original file doesn't exist anymore. In that case, we need to process the file in a heuristic way. It means that there must be a tool which will detect graphics that needs to be as a graphic together. It must detect titles, paragraphs, tables, graphs, headers, footers, table of contents. Everything this can be detected, and to make it work properly and to represent the data properly, it must be detected correctly. In that case, any kind of tagging is helpful. Even improper tagging is helpful, and we are able to get much more from the document, much better data from the document, if it's very poorly tagged or if it's non-tagged at all. So this was actually one of the PDFs that we got from the customer, and by automated processing, we was able to detect specific elements, and on the right side you will see its representation on a very small device, which is just a single column view, and you will see that some of the elements, we was able to detect tables, images, and the areas that, for example, this green one that contain an additional text, And based on the, I will show it again, based on the type of the data or the structure of the data in the document, we was able to identify images, tables, rectangular areas like this green one, and so on. This was processed by our SDK. So as I mentioned, the biggest challenge in logical content extraction is to identify single logical elements and detection of the reading order. So these are two keys. We are dealing with different document types, as I mentioned, and we have a couple of a number of problems that we need to solve in detection. I will show a couple of examples where the detection is very complicated, and without understanding the author intent or the actually if we not get some hint how to process it correctly, it's even impossible. So we will get some results, but these results might be incorrect. So if, for example, if you know the text in the PDF is not text actually, it's just a bunch of characters that are placed somewhere. So first, the processing must be done to detect words, lines. In many cases, and many different text processor creates very different output in the PDF files. If you imagine justified alignment or positioning, tabs, spaces, many times is typo, like two spaces. At that moment, it's just a bigger space. So do we have to split the line or not? And also, there are many times you have two columns which are so close together that you cannot understand whether it's still a space because it's justified alignment was used, or it's a different column because it's just one row, and on the scanned document you will just get one piece of text and you need to split it somewhere. Dependent graphics is something that is a combination of images, text, vectors, whatever can be, but this image will not make any sense if you split text, images, or paths. It must be together. And there is definitely, it can be identified, but if we have the information, at least any tag, like which will separate this whole content as a one element, it will always be presented in HTML as correct graphics that needs to be shown like this. Text wrapping, another example where in this case you have no idea how the columns flow, whether it's just one row or you have to read the text as two columns. Text over image, also a very good example. The beer on the left side. At the moment, I don't know if the text is something that is written on the glass and must remain on the image, or it's a label to the image, like on the right side. So it's hard to determine the relationship between the text and the image. But if we do have this information, the author can be sure that the content will be provided in another representation as it should be. Reading order, very nice one. If we do not know the content, I don't know if those guys in the back can read it, but I'm sure that one would read the text in columns, but that's not true. It flows in rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 7, up to 9, sorry. And the other one on the right side is a complete mess. So without properly reading the image, you don't know how the text flows, and it will depend on the creator how the content will be provided. But ideally, in this case, it would be provided as an image with fixed position text on it, because the position of the text could mean something. Another good example is drop cap letter. In the top example, the A is a letter, so it can be somehow there can be some logic which will put the A together with the content. So any word as a first word first word can be identified. The second one, although you will see that you see the same, it's not possible because it's either a path or an image. So it's hard to detect hard to make a decision whether it can be something that belongs to the first word. Combined content, also another messy example. You don't know whether it should be like this or like this. So again, something that forces people or leads people to use tags to mark the content so that the content extraction works properly. So, if I summarize it, the author's intent can be or achieved, or the author can control the way how the PDF will be displayed on any device and any viewer by any technology. Is the only way how to do this is to create proper tags which will provide as much information as possible. If no tags exist, it means documents are already created. Human input is necessary to identify the elements to get 100% to be 100% sure that the processing was correct. And also, even if you do this, there is currently no way to save back the information about the processing, about selecting different elements into PDF. This is something what next generation PDF allows. Next generation PDF, we heard a lot about this already today, and all the issues that was presented here can be solved by the technology that will be a part of by the new standard that will be part of the next generation PDF. Alternate presentation will provide the way how to display the PDF on this different size. Derivation algorithm was described very nicely today, and the result will be not just better user experience, but in many cases some user experience. Because until now there was devices which simply blocks PDF from being used, very small devices. So I came here a bit quicker than I expected, but that was it. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Yeah?
How do you see the conversion from Word documents to this next generation PDF?
Yes.
Most of the documents are still written in Microsoft Word.
Yes, most of the documents many of PDF documents are even being created in Microsoft Word. And as there was a presentation before me, you can create perfectly valid PDF UA documents directly from Word. So if you do it that way, you don't have to deal with conversion, or you don't need additional processing of the PDF. You having perfectly valid PDF UA document directly from Word solves the problem, because that's next generation PDF already. By derivation algorithm, you can simply build a HTML representation from PDF UA document.
Just to clarify that slightly, a lot of the concepts of PDF UA apply to next generation PDF, but it's not the same thing. So you won't be able to just take a PDF UA1 file and boom, immediately it's next generation. So it will be very easy to move one to the other, and that's by design. But we're not saying they're the same thing, they're not. But what Jozef said is exactly the case, which is the previous presenters showed, that going from Word to next generation PDF, where you have that original content, is well defined. Because you have the semantics up front.
I'm just trying to figure out those examples you showed with those tables and columns and.
I think there are sitting.
Well, because in Word, you know what's a table, you know what's a column. And so replicating those exact semantics in the PDF are just, it's a one-to-one map. It's not, there's no magic.
But don't you see new PDF alternative?
Well, we have a lot of, we'll need all sorts of new PDF tools as part of next generation PDF. It doesn't, there's no expectation that your tools today will work. We're not trying to accomplish that. There's an the point is, as we move to the next generation, the tools will have to get better. The tools will have to adopt the new technologies, the new directions. Absolutely.
Lastly, I would say that on Wednesday we are running hackathon, which which is bringing several tools for trying to build next generation PDF files. So I don't know if it's possible still to get into hackathon, but there is a couple of people who are coming, and we would like to present or try to use a new technology based on the specification and try to tweak PDF files and get nice results that should provide or that should bring the expectation to the reality. That's it. Thank you very much.